So, guys, the story this week that didn't get nearly enough attention is the impeachment vote for Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas. And the reason that it is so awesome is twofold. One, the Republicans thought they had a victory. They thought they're like, oh, we're going to impeach a Biden cabinet official for, and I believe that'd be the second time ever that a cabinet secretary was impeached, and they were so excited about it. They it didn't make any sense. They were impeaching him for not enforcing, laws about immigration on the border. And like to put in perspective how little sense their claims made, there were two House Republicans who straight up said, no, we're going to vote no on this because we're going to side with the Democrats out of principle. And like, how often does that happen? Like, that is how bogus these claims were. But they thought they had it. They thought they had the numbers. And so they go to vote, they're all voting, and all of a sudden, Democrat from Texas, Al Green, who no one thought would be there because they thought he'd be in the hospital recovering from intestinal surgery. He bursts onto the Senate floor, and I can't make this up. This is true. He bursts on the Senate floor in a wheelchair, no shoes on, and still wearing his hospital gown to vote no. And
Dedication.
that's amazing. Like that happens. Like if that happened in a movie, I would just be like, that didn't happen.
Beautiful.
That's unbelievable.
He's
But
giving Ruth Bader Ginsburg right there. Yeah,
exactly,
definitely.
exactly.
Showing up
And
no
like,
matter what.
did he probably have time to like put
Oh, I'm
normal clothes
sure.
on?
I'm
Could he have
sure
put
he could have
shoes
got
on?
there
Oh,
an
the
hour
drama
earlier.
of this is
But-
what makes it
Drama
so
was
good,
all
though.
there.
Exactly. And I don't know. I cannot, I'm not inside the brain of this man, right? But I like to think that after this happened, Republicans still were a vote up. They were like, okay, well, that's dramatic. That's cool, but we're still a vote up, still fine. And then another Republican, oh God, what was his name? It was Gallagher, Mike Gallagher from Wisconsin. He's shocking. He's surprised. He betrayed the Republicans, stabbed him in the back, and voted no. And when he did it, the Republicans around him turned to him. They're like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? You're supposed to vote yes. And the Democrats
No
were like,
honor among
order,
thieves.
order, continue with the vote. He voted no. And it was dramatic. It was fun. Like, congressional votes are not usually fun and dramatic, but this was maybe one of the most fun and dramatic congressional votes I've ever read about. And it's just so funny because it's such a self-own by the Republicans to completely fail to take your shot, not even at the king, at one of the king's men and miss. And it is so embarrassing and just really speaks to the utter dysfunction. Like we talk about problems on the left and Democrats and yada 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 all the time, but at least we don't have the utter dysfunction and chaos that ensues in the Republican Party on a regular basis. So I'll throw this to you, Natalie. What did you think when you heard about this story?
So I was like, "Ooh, chef's kiss." Like this whole situation just brought me so much glee because there are very few people I loathe more than Mike Johnson. So to see him, maybe he needs to get on his knees and pray and wish for something to happen, because to see him fail so spectacularly was truly a thing of beauty. And I was reading about this before, obviously we were all coming together, just to make sure I had all my thoughts in a row. And this one correspondent for CNN, I believe his name is Bakari, or Bakari Sellers. He said something and I was like, wow, this is so good. He said Johnson lost more bills in one night than Nancy Pelosi did in 2 terms. Pelosi would never bring out a vote unless she knew she had it. And we can say what we want about Pelosi, okay? But to your point, John, the reality is this job is far too big for this man.
Way
He
too
doesn't
big.
he doesn't know what he's doing. And I think, he is sort of this agent of chaos on purpose. And the reality is, what is the legacy of the Republican Party at this point? Because they have no ideas. And when they think they have an idea, they can't rally energy around it. And apparently their Speaker of the House doesn't know how to count. So to me, it's just one embarrassing problem after another that really sets them up, I think, in a very bad way moving into this 2024 election cycle, because they have to go to their bases in their respective states, and the people are going to ask them, what have you accomplished? And the answer is Zipola. And so to me, it's just a thing of beauty, and I'm very much enjoying it, if I'm just being honest.
Sure.
Lynn,
think, Lynn?
Oh, well, for me, it's the performative politics for me.
Yes.
There are so many things going on, and I guess I always want to ask like the more important question. Like, let's say you were successful. What would that have done? Nothing. There would have been someone else appointed in his place, and they would have continued to do whatever they're going to do. At the end of the day, it's like the Republican Party as a whole doesn't want to get anything done under a Democratic administration. Right. That's just what it is. If they have control over anything during a Democratic administration, nothing's getting done. And it's not, and I think that our country, whether it be on the left or the right, you need to see that the ultimate point of the government and the people that are serving you as the constituent is for them to do things that are in service of you. There's a lot of things, you'd be like, oh, well, this person failed. I want to impeach this person. What is that going to solve? Is that going to keep people from coming across the border? Is that going to is that going to solve a policy problem? No, it isn't. But it makes you guys look good. It makes you look like you are really having engaging conversation about a real issue when you're not. And then you go up there and like you guys said, you look silly up here. You look silly. People, and I think the thing about Republicans are, there are some more extreme Republicans than others. And the less extreme Republicans don't want to be associated all the time with the more extreme side. So then you have like this constant battle within themselves. But what they are united about is that they're not going to get anything done until there's a Republican president. So political grandstanding, let it go.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, now it's a great point. Even if they had a Republican president, what would they do? I'll tell you, they do two things. They would cut taxes and reduce regulations. That's it. That's the only thing. That's the only thing Republicans are interested in doing. And I guess the other thing is a confirmation of conservative judges. Like that's actually, something that they're into. But other than that, they're not super interested in policy. I mean, well,
that's a part of the diabolical plan, right? To get as many judges in there as possible so that they are voting for what you want them to vote for and not voting for the things you don't.
Yeah. It's and the I was going to say impeachment. So this is like you guys, it's so funny. That's the best part. It's just so hilarious that Mike Johnson is not up for his job, which isn't, I mean, it's hard to blame him for this because it's not like he woke up sometime last year thinking I'm going to be Speaker of the House. It was just this insane course of events that led him to getting this gig in the first place that he's absolutely not ready for. But I'm glad you guys asked about why the hell are they doing this anyway? If you're going to go through the trouble of initiating an impeachment, aim for the top. Why the hell not? I mean, do you think any like Republican voter or casual conservative is going to get really jazzed that you're, impeaching a guy they've never heard of before? I mean, they don't know what he does. And then the reason, if they even bother looking to the reason, is like, oh, because he didn't do a good job on the border. It's like, you mean he operated within the parameters of his position? That's what you're mad about? And they just kept pushing this. And what I really liked is the vote count, because I think, Natalie, you mentioned it, that's kind of your main job as Speaker of the House. I mean,
literally
votes.
Yeah, which is why Nancy Pelosi did so well at this. And I don't know if you guys ever watched House of Cards before Kevin Spacey lost his mind, or it was exposed that he was an insane maniac before. Apparently, it was always been that way. But I remember one season when he's the majority whip and he's talking to his people in the caucus, and he says, listen, when you're working here, I need you to remember three things. He says, vote your conscience, vote your district, and don't surprise me. The most important one is do not surprise me, because like they will kill you if you do something like that.
Because they will put it on the board. They will have everyone on the board.
Oh, they know.
Like, who's yes, who's no.
And the fact that what was his name that went against the Republicans? I can't remember. Gallagher. The fact that he did that is a bright, glowing neon sign that the caucus does not respect Mike Johnson. That's what it means. It's like they can do whatever they want and just laugh every time they choose to. Now, if I remember correctly, the final vote was tied at first. It was 215 to 215. And then a Republican had to defect and vote against it at the last second to make it 216 to 214. And that's when I found out about this congressional rule that guy, whoever he was, did that because in order for the bill to be reintroduced, it has to be reintroduced by someone who voted against it. So he had to change his vote at the last second so he could reintroduce it next time. Weird, procedural stuff that I'm finding out what's going on here.
It reminded me when I read about that, like at the end of a football game when they like do the clock magic to like make if you go out of bounds running forward, it stops the clock. If you go out running backwards, you're an idiot. Or like when the running back just kneels before he gets a touchdown. Like that's exactly the thought. And I was like, respect to that guy. Like he thought about that in the heat of the moment.
It's
question though. Oh, sorry. I was
gonna say it was the infield fly rule of parliamentary politics. Is basically what it is. Go
ahead, Natalie.
I just had a question though, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, because I thought I had read this, but maybe I misunderstood. They were trying to do this because they knew Al Green wasn't supposed to be there either, right? Because that was like a big part of it. So all of this was also banking on like someone getting a surgery, which I also find really fascinating. Like they were waiting for a moment where someone would have to be gone and be ill. And like, to me, it's just, this whole thing is just all the way around just set up as a bad situation. And I just find it like,
it's not cheating. That's I mean, that was actually a smart move.
I think that I mean, it's not cheating, right? But it's gaslighting to say that you're not, because right? If you know the intent of what you're doing, and you're doing it on purpose, then you're just gaslighting the American people. You knew that this was going to happen, and you knew that, well, you banked on the fact that this was going to happen, and then he surprised you, and then now you have to deal with how ridiculous you look, and now you probably have Americans, because it didn't go so swiftly, because had it been more swift, and they would have been able to actually do this and carry this out, maybe they would be able to get some more momentum. But now that people are actually able to look at what they're saying and like dissect what they're saying, it's actually ridiculous. I watched quite a few videos of different, people speaking to the secretary. And I just said to myself, you guys are saying things to him that actually it's like not even really, like they were talking about the immigration app. And they were like, oh, now immigrants can just, log on and just come to the border. And I'm like, even if that is true, he didn't launch this app personally. Like you guys have to understand, like, of course he's the person that's, at the top of the page, like any person that's leading any organization. But at the end of the day, clearly they created that app for a purpose, and you're miscategorizing some of the aspects of that app in order for you to further your purpose, but you just look more silly. So I just feel like now people are able to actually look at what they were talking about, and it just doesn't make any sense.
I hate to take heat off the Republicans, but I have to, because Republicans have taken a lot of L's this week, and we're talking about them for the rest of this show. And I just want to, the one thought I had that wasn't laugh out loud, the Republicans are idiots, was why do we still have this rule that like a politician has to be on the floor?
I was going to ask the same question. I was going to ask the exact same question.
Are we still in like the 1800s?
Yes.
Like, why is this a rule?
Like he couldn't like phone it in somehow.
Right. Yeah, he can't vote by proxy. He can't just tell his team, hey, vote for this. Like we have, like, why does that make sense?
It doesn't,
especially over something as important as like impeachment.
Yeah.
Like
I remember thinking of this a while ago, and then this came up, and I was like, it is so weird that you have to be, you know what? I remember when I was thinking about it, it was when the last presidential election cycle, and they were talking about how Sanders and Warren were at a huge disadvantage because there was a big vote that was going to happen like right around Super Tuesday. I was like, are you kidding me? Like telephones exist. Why the hell do they have to physically be in the room for the quorum for it to work? I mean, look, I get if you need them to check in to make sure they're voting. All right, fine. But, I'm sorry, you have to be within these four walls to vote. That is a 1789 rule. It makes sense back then, but right now it doesn't.
Cheaters think that people are going to cheat.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess.
Like, how is it even cheating? Like, it's not even cheating. It's just, hey, this is my vote. I'm saying it ahead of time.
Do it beforehand. Hey, exactly. I'm not going to be here on Thursday. Here is my vote.
And it's like, and I have a doctor's
They're
excuse.
like, it's
I'm getting
a
surgery.
It's going to be a deep fake. That's why. They believe.
And now all of a sudden they'll worry about deep fakes, Lynn.
I know, right? And Lynn, this too, like it kind of like you brought this up, but we were talking about is like, what was the whole goal here? And that's a great point you made about how they essentially, like, their car broke down on the way to a fight in which they were gonna get their ass kicked anyway. It's like, it's an L, but you were gonna take one no matter what. What did you possibly expect to win here? No one. Ever since Trump's first impeachment, honestly, I've been a staunch defender since we're upending, parliamentary precedent here. Who gives a fuck now, right? But like, impeachment is pretty much a waste of time. It's a way, if you, especially for something like the president, where you need, not only the impeachment to happen in the House, but you need 2/3 of the Senate. And like you're saying, John, this is the second time this has happened. And so the first time would have been Andrew Johnson, right? Yeah, and who ironically got impeached. But his impeachment was for firing people on the cabinet. And so it's funny that it's kind of gotten to this now that this impeachment is for a cabinet member. But yeah, it is just, it's funny. I love watching Republicans take L's, but they give us a ton of chances to do so. It's pretty humorous.
Agreed.
There we go.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
The other thing, as much like every time Republicans do this, I'm like, yeah, they're so stupid. And then I go, well, you know what? They're still competitive with the Democrats. It's just like, how do we not kick these people's asses all the way to Timbuktu? Like, there's obviously so stupid. How can we not do better? It blows my mind. And I know that's because the infrastructure around the Republican politicians is very strong, and the politicians themselves are just idiots. But like, goddamn, it's just depressing.
So what's interesting about that is, like, I mean, we've been talking a long time. The Republicans, honestly, ever since Trump's election, like, they've been doing worse and worse and worse. They keep. And did you see that that Red State article that came out talking about the expenditures for the DNC versus the RNC? Did any of you guys see that? It is a wild discrepancy because Ronna McDaniel is stepping down basically because Trump bullied her out of the position as a RNC chair, which is so funny because she changed her last name for Donald Trump. Like, she's Ronna McDaniel Romney, but she had to drop the Romney, make Trump happy. She got booted out anyway. And but it showed that so the Republican Party is like almost in the red when it comes to the money they have that they've raised to the RNC, and the Democrats have just tons of cash to spend on this election. And so they did Red State did an audit showing the differences between the parties, and the Republicans spent like $300,000 on limousines and flowers and just ancillary shit, office supplies. But when it came to like sending money to the states to help their candidates win, Democrats sent like $10 million and they sent like 800 grand or something like that. Like, it was just like, it's an obvious, we joke about how right-wingers are nothing but a series of grifters stacked on top of each other. That discrepancy was the best example that I've ever seen. And they got to give a lot of money to Trump to help pay his legal bills. So they're not bright. And it is starting to collapse around them. And it's couldn't happen to a better group of people.
Speaking of, what a wonderful, lovely group of people.
Oh, great.
Let's talk about this border convoy.
Let's. All right.
All right, guys, if you made it to this point in the video and you are a regular viewer of the left wing, you know what I'm going to say right now. Thank you very much. It helps us so much in the algorithm. And if you want to help us even more, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and definitely check out our amazing guests we had on this week. I'll let them introduce themselves and tell you where to find them. Lynn, you go first.
Yeah, I'm Politic and Lynn. You can find me on Instagram at Politic and Lynn, or you can find me on my new TikTok page at Politic and Lynn News.
Hey, everybody, I'm Natalie Bencivenga, and you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, all of the places at Natalie Bencivenga, and you can check out my website, nataliebencivenga.com.
Thank you, guys. Folks, we appreciate you coming in and taking a break from, the man-made horrors beyond your comprehension you meet in your everyday life, and, just chilling out and getting some news from us. But be sure to check out our guests and follow us, like, share, and subscribe. We appreciate all their help.